Hey guys, Tricky here. Hope you're all enjoying a nice start to the year. TPR and myself have been extremely busy behind the scenes, planning, organising and putting on community events. Today we've decided to do our first video of 2023. Unfortunately, the nature of this video is not how we wanted to start. However, considering the movement is in such a state of disarray, with so much infighting, so much backstabbing and baseless attacks being made, we've decided to address some of these ridiculous allegations being made against TPR and myself continuously over the last 12 months. Now, in this video, I'm going to address Max Egan's baseless rant, and then I'm going to make a second video in which we address all of the other defamatory allegations being made. In both videos, we're going to produce hard evidence which proves these claims to be nothing but baseless, false allegations. And I strongly request that everybody shares this video so we can get the message out to the people that these allegations being made are false, they're fabricated lies, and they're being made on purpose to disrupt and cause a distraction to the movement, and that we need to get over this together. We need to put that crap to the side, actually put it to the back, set it on fire and leave it back there, and start joining together again, uniting and marching forward and start to achieve things again. So please guys, remember to share this video, send it to everybody, send it to the pages, to the groups, to the messenger chats, to Telegram, everywhere you got to do it. Let's get this out there. Now guys, I want to get everybody to cast their memory back to November and December of 2021 and January and February of 2022. Now what was happening around those times? Well, Australia was erupting into mass protest all around the country, in every major city. Every rally, every month, on the same day, saw the Australian people uniting on the front, and the numbers were growing intensely at each march. And basically what happened here, guys, is the so-called authorities shit themselves. They shit themselves because they saw a mass amount of civil unrest and it was just about to become uncontrollable. So they went into crisis mode and they pulled the pin on the mandates and they calmed us back down. That's how they were able to manipulate the people and stop that civil unrest progressing any further. I want everybody here to realise something, that we need to stop being our own worst enemy and realise that we achieved that together. The people of Australia united, we achieved something together, guys. We got on the streets in our mass numbers, we kept going. November, December, January, February, we kept going, bang. We were against the mandates, they dropped them. We have to take that win. That was us that did that. If we stayed at home, now look, I'm not going to say that the rallies by themselves produced that result, but I am going to say that they played a massive part in having those mandates dropped. Now, take the win, let's accept it, that we are a powerful movement. They've realised that now, and they feel threatened. And due to that feeling of being threatened, they have done, the so-called authorities have done what any other government and what any other intelligence agency does in their own country. They infiltrate the movement. They send people in to disrupt, distract, and start fights. And guys, well, the first thing here to mention is that they don't necessarily send people in. They will use people that are already there inside the movement and manipulate them, blackmail them, coerce them, and bribe them into causing disruptions and to slow the progress of that movement down. And that is exactly what happened. We have taken it hook, line and sinker. We've taken the bait. We've done nothing over the last 6 to 12 months but fight, attack each other and cause disruptions. This movement is being punished right now, guys. So we have to really rise above it now. And this is why we've decided to make this video, and this is why we decided to make the second video, so we can give you an example of these allegations being baseless. We're going to prove that with hard evidence, and they're going to encourage people to dump them, leave them back there, and let's move forward together. We have an opportunity to save this movement, but it has to be done now. So share the video, please. Right guys, so again, we don't want to make this video, but we decided to because it has to be addressed. And it's time to move on. So it's time to get into it. Firstly, I'm shocked and surprised at Max's video. He's not only said untrue things, he has fabricated lies, and he's purposely sent that into the movement into Australia from his place in Mexico. Now, I'm actually also hurt because I've spent a lot of time with Max. I've spent time at his house. I consider him a friend. And for people, to be sending me this video saying, hey, Tricky, what's this about, man? Have you seen this? And then me click play on that button. After everything, that we've been through together, not necessarily me and Max, but me, my family, the movement, all of us together, and how far we've come for these people to start turning their backs on us, to start backstabbing and put out ridiculous crap like this. So, I am hurt. And what's interesting is, why has Max waited 12 months after the fact to release these videos? There's many questions that need to be answered. That's for you guys to really question yourself and come up with the answer yourself. I'm not going to put any thoughts in anyone's head. Let's have a look what he says, guys. Let's take a look at the video and let's see how it starts.
I lost faith in anything that was going on in Australia when I was there. The last rally that I went to in Brisbane was the People's Revolution was running it. Tricky Tritty was running it. I got there in the morning. I was told to come and speak. I got there in the morning and there were 30,000 people gathered in Brisbane. 30,000 people. It was the most impressive turnout I'd ever seen for Brisbane. It was just incredible. And Tricky wouldn't let me speak.
All right, so that's Max's allegations. Let's take a look at what really happened.
Thanks to Jack. He's been very patient. I said he was going to speak before the march and things happened, so he's waited around to chat. So thanks, Jack, for being patient. The next speaker is a crowd favourite. He needs no introduction. Max Egan, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, folks.
Well, Max, that video clearly shows that you did speak. And for everybody at home, here's the real events leading up to that rally, which was held in 2021, September. Now, as a result of discussions within the TPR management team, we decided to invite Max to speak at that particular rally. So I contacted him about 2 weeks before the march, before the rally, and invited him to speak. He told me he was unable to make the march, and I said, no worries, Max, we'll catch up next time. So we contacted the other speakers, gave them the time slot that they'd be speaking in, and on the morning of the rally, so on the 18th of September 2021, a few hours before it, Max contacts me and says that he can come up now and he wants to speak. I said, Max, we've already got all the speakers. We've probably got one too many as it is, and we've already given them all the slots that will be speaking in. He convinced me that he's got something very important to say to the crowd and that he needs to come say it. And at this time, I considered Max to be quite reputable, a man of integrity, and a friend. So I said, Max, you know what I'll do? I'll move things around for you. Come up, we'll slot you in somewhere. So we arrived at the rally. Max arrived. We had a chat, and I explained to Max that he'd be speaking after the march, and he became disgruntled very quickly to this. He explained, no, I need to speak before the march. And I said, Max, we've already done, we've bent over backwards to make this happen for you. We've moved people around. You'll be speaking after the march. He grunted, turned away, and walked off, and that was pretty much where that conversation ended. So although I went out of my way to make things work for Max, he was still quite rude and disrespectful. Anyway, let's move on and see what he says next.
No, he wanted to go and do the march first. We'll do a march around the block and then we'll come back and everyone can speak. He did a march around 4 blocks. Made the march go 4 times longer than it normally does. He stopped apparently in every corner and gave a 15-minute speech on every corner. And by the time he got back to Brisbane Park, where the rally had started, he had 1,500 people with him.
All right, guys, so the first thing we need to address here is the fact that in the close to 30 marches that TPR has put on, we've learned that the crowd becomes restless very quickly, and that's why we have a few speeches before the march, then we go for a walk, then we have a few speeches after the march, and that's a nice way to close it off, and it keeps the people engaged. And the fact is that the majority of people actually come specifically for the march. So if we were to have all the speeches before the march, and we've seen it before, I've tried different ways of doing this, people get up and leave. They become restless very quickly and they leave. So we've found that this is the best balance of how to run the day. Secondly, it wasn't 4 blocks, it was actually 5. So let's take a look. So you can see, guys, we leave from here, which is George Street, outside Parliament House. We head northwest on Edward Street, we go past Margaret Street, we go past Mary, we go past Charlotte, we go past Elizabeth, and we turn right into Queen Street. Now, as you can see here in red, the march route is normally 6 blocks, 7 if you include Burnout Lane. So no Max, our march wasn't 4 times longer, it was actually shorter. Now why was it shorter? For the first time in Australian history, we the people ignored the direction of the so-called authorities and we marched through Queen Street Mall as a unit. It had never done before at that stage, and it was one of the most uplifting experiences for many people, and it was an absolute highlight of the day. Everyone loved it, even the cops, who made mention after the march, and I even got a fist bump from one of the cops, and he said, "Man, that was cool as." Right, guys, and then the next thing Max said in that little section there was that he claimed it was a 3-hour march. Right, so let's take a look at this. As you can see here, this is where the march is about to head off from Parliament House. And you can see the photo here of the haka. This occurred at 2:09 p.m. on the 18th of September. This next photo was taken 350 metres down the road at Queen's Gardens. As you can see here by the timestamp, it was taken at 2:19 p.m. Now here's a map showing that it's a 5-minute walk from Parliament House to Queen's Gardens, giving us an almost exact start time of 2:14 p.m. that the march started. Alright guys, the next thing we're going to look at is some footage of the march returning back to Alice Street, which is right where the garden entry is. Alright, as you can see here, another timestamp, 3:15 p.m. If you zoom into Alice Street here, check out these flags. You can see that they match the video footage. Turn around 180 degrees. Here is the gate to return back into the gardens. Now, half the crowd enters through this gate, and the other half walked an extra 302 metres to the top gate. So we're going to be generous here and allow an extra 10 minutes, which is obviously exaggerated. That gives us a total march time of 1 hour 11 minutes. That's from 2:14 p.m. to 3:24 p.m. 3:25 p.m. I should say. That's 1 hour and 11 minutes, not 3 hours. Now guys, we didn't stop on every corner as Max claims. We didn't stop 15 times, we stopped 6. So let's take a look at actually why we do stop. Alright, so here we have the crowd coming together at the top of the Queen Street Mall. This was our first stop of the day. Here the crowd was briefed that they're about to make history. It was explained that the mall was packed and that taking 30,000 people through the mall comes with risks. So the crowd was instructed to keep their wits about them, stick together and stay out of the riffraff. The crowd was so pumped up, the roar was inspiring, and it awoken the entire mall as the onlookers' jaws dropped to the ground as we took off through the mall. Right guys, now you're about to see the second stop of the day. This is in Queen Street Mall outside McDonald's. A perfect example of why we do stop on the march.
There's abusive lines around the country called the border. They try to separate us from that. As soon as we realise those borders are non-existent, realise there's only one race, guys, and that's the human race. And everybody in this hall is wearing a mask or not, we're all part of that human race and we love one another, and that's how we're going to get through this.
Guys, now I do want to show you another piece of footage that wasn't taken from this day. In the name of transparency, I want to make that clear. However, I do want to include it in this video because it is a perfect example of why we take the opportunity to stop in public and address certain issues.
Like the Port Hotel, is that they folded at the knees, but bent, like, I won't say that word, they bent over. When many other establishments, bars, restaurants, cafes stood strong and told the police to F off, they told the government to F off, and they served everybody. They didn't allow apartheid in this country. At the start of this year, many people have chosen not to partake in the experimental injection that has no short-term or long-term side effects known, that is now increasing at a skyrocketing rate in fertility and miscarriages. They were punished by this little government of ours. But it came down to the business owners. The business owners had an opportunity to stand strong and cement their place in history and stand up against a tyrannical dictatorship, or they had the chance to fold. Port Office, the owner, he folded. He said, no, you can't come in unless you get the vaccine. The vaccine does not stop you catching it. It does not prevent transmission. Don't do that. But here's the problem, guys. I know the owner of this establishment, the Port Hotel, he had a hard decision to make. He starts to make an income. He has to feed his family. But he made the wrong choice. Clearly. We have to stand strong. We have to unite. You've got to keep the doors open to the public. Otherwise, what happens when your kids are grown? When your kids are grown, they're living in a world where they don't have the rights and freedoms that we did. It's extremely clear. Do you want to be living in a country like the Chinese Communist Party is operating in China? If you don't want to do that, start growing a set of nuts and stand up. And that's what you've got to do, guys. Stand strong together. Now, other establishments that I've mentioned publicly have come to me and apologised. The bouncer from outside the Boundary Hotel that we had a standoff. He saw me at a pub at South Bank. He was doing work at the South Bank pub. He saw me, he called me over. He says, Tricky, I want to talk to you. I went over. And he apologised. The bouncer apologised to me, said, man, I'm so glad this is over. I'm so glad I don't have to keep refusing my brothers and sisters. I said, that's all good, brother, but what happens in 6 months' time when this fucking dictatorship asks you to follow his orders again? What are you going to do? He said, Tricky, I'll rip my fucking badge off and I'll walk with you, brother. That's what we need. Everybody makes mistakes, but until you make a promise to the future generations that you will make better for your mistakes, then you're nothing. A real man, a real woman stands up, they miss the mistakes, and they make change for the future. So this group here today is called the People's Revolution. We got black fellas, we got white fellas. We got Christians, we got Muslims, we got rich, we got poor. We got beer drinkers, we have people that don't drink. We got teachers, we got soldiers, we got doctors. These people have come together because they see a problem for the future of this country. Our crowd goes stronger. Every day we go bigger. Why? Because people are forgetting the differences, they're coming together and they're fighting for their children. And this is what this is about. I can die tomorrow, I don't care, I've had a good life. I care about your kids. That's why I'm making this sacrifice. So next time, drop your beer and come join us. We'll walk as one, brothers and sisters, hand in hand. Love you all. People, united, we'll never be divided. The people, united, we'll never be divided.
All right, let's keep moving forward, guys. What does Max say next?
There were 30,000 people there at the start of the day who wanted to be inspired. And I had words that I needed to say that would have been highly beneficial for these 30,000 people to hear. And Tricky wouldn't let me speak. He took the crowd and spent 2 hours, 3 hours, marching around the block.
All right, Max, well, we can tell you're upset. We can tell that your ego's probably been a little bit bruised here by, yourself not being allowed, in quotation marks, to speak where you felt you should be speaking. So what were these words that you just had to tell the crowd on this day? Let's have a look. Now, guys, we're not going to show the whole speech by Max on this day because it's going to make the video too long. However, we will provide the link in the description and in the comments of the entire speech so you can watch it for yourself. Now, the first thing that Max says to the crowd here is that the government has to go, and I am full supportive of this statement. The government has to go. They're tyrannical, they're not taking care of the people, get rid of them. I agree. He goes on to say, encourage the people to take over the TV stations. Now, in a movement where we are being labelled as right-wing extremists, this has got to be one of the most unintelligent things to say on a public stage. You know, encouraging people to forcefully take over a TV station. That's a bit ridiculous if you ask me. Anyway, we'll move on. The next thing he says is he wants to get the politicians to explain their actions. Yeah, I agree with it. Then he goes on to say that he likes Clive Palmer and that everybody should sign up to the Clive Palmer party, even if you don't believe in politics.
The Coles folks, I reckon everybody should sign up to Clive Palmer's political party, even if you don't believe in politics. Just sign up and become a member.
Now, I don't know, Max, was this the inspiring words that you wanted to get out to the crowd today? You know, telling the people to sign up to a political party, even if they don't believe in that political party? And it doesn't quite make sense considering Max's next point, which is the government is invalid.
Fuck you to the government. And we need everybody to do this, because we don't have government in this country, folks. We have a criminal cabal masquerading as government. They incorporated in 1973. Every single thing they do is invalid.
Okay, well, I'm unsure if I'm inspired or just plain confused after that, because that was a total contradiction. Anyway, we'll move on. Max goes on to say that he likes Clive because he says things like the PCR test is not a test, that the virus was never isolated, and that more people have died from the jab than COVID. Now, that's all things we agree on, but that's been said many, many times before. We've heard it all before. He goes on to say that for a cop to fine you, you need a biosecurity order in your name, and that is true. However, we've known that since 2020 because Serene Tefahar came out and made a brilliant video on that piece. And, you know, hats off to Serene for coming out so early in the piece and, you know, sharing that video with the movement. That was very valuable. Max goes on to say that he'd love to see a strike and that the police need to be on the side of the people. And I absolutely agree with Max here. And if he had decided to come on the march and march alongside the people, he would see that we, as a unit, take time to address the police, to try and motivate them and make them understand that they need to be on the side of the people and why that is. And that's a hard task, guys, and you can't do that by standing on the stage or sitting at home and making videos. You have to be out there planting those seeds. So let's take a look at that video.
You guys do something to us. We need you guys on our side and it's coming very soon. Please, my words, guys. You don't want to see the oppression of your citizens. You need to protect us and what we do.
So as you can see from that video, guys, when the police are there in person with you and you address them with respect, you can in fact plant the seeds of motivation for them to be joining the people. And when they go home from their shift at work and they're at home alone with their thoughts, they unpack that sort of information and those seeds have been planted. And that's the way to do it, guys. If we all get out there and treat these guys with respect and let them know what's coming and why we the people need the police on our side, because they are our brothers and sisters too, they'll eventually start to get through them. That's how you do it. Max goes on to say that the quarantine centres are for the people and that the prisons should be for the politicians. Well, does that include Clive Palmer, Max? The last thing he really makes a point of is saying that to take our power back, we need to continue to rally the people. That's exactly what TPR does, and we do it better than anybody because we are the people. This is the people's revolution, and that's what it's based on. And it's, you know, this comes down to the people joining together and creating something that we all put our bodies and minds to. All right, guys, let's move on. What happens next?
2 or 3 hours they were gone. Came back with 1,500 people.
All right, well, we've already addressed the 3-hour claim. It was only a 1 hour march. 1 hour and 10 minutes to be exact. Now, everybody knows that organically the numbers drop off after the march. Why? Because a lot of people, when I say a lot, I mean a lot of people come specifically for the march. As I said before, it's the highlight of the day. Now, you know, and everybody knew that Max was there because Max got on stage. I had to go sort out an incident in the background. Max jumped up on stage and had a chat. Then people knew he was there. If they wanted to hear him speak, they would have stayed around for that. Let's keep moving on.
When that happened, I lost all faith in that movement in Australia, and I just saw how controlled it was.
Well, Max, I haven't lost faith in the movement here or the people in Australia, but many people in Australia have lost faith in the people that are choosing to cause unnecessary disruptions and distractions and make false allegations. Keep moving on.
And here's this guy who liaises with the police to make sure we can have the proper march in place and all the right permits and shit. What the fuck?
Now that's absolute rubbish. Absolute crap that is, Max. Never once has myself or TPR ever applied or asked for permission or a permit or any sort of paperwork or documentation from the Queensland Police or the City Council or any other governmental department. Not once. In fact, I think TPR is the only group in this entire country that have always stood strong for our rights and never sought approval or permission to have a protest or a gathering or event. And why is that? It's because we, the people, do not need approval or permits to gather on our own land. It's our land. And that's what everybody needs to understand, guys. We don't need their approval. Now, this is a claim, a false claim, and I'm not sure why Max would have not provided proof for this, because if you obtain a permit, that is accessible by the public under the Freedom of Information. So if anybody would like to produce some documentation that myself or TPR have ever applied for any sort of this paperwork, we'd like to see it. Now, again, guys, what was it that was so important that Max had to say on that day? Was it the fact that he wanted that we need to get police onto our side? Let's have a look at this video.
And there's so many police now that are breaking ranks and calling out about this. Now they want to jab them. And the police has got to get on the side of the people. The police in this country have got to start being police. And they've got to recognise that through history, the only thing that has ever allowed the introduction of a tyranny state is the failure of order follows to disobey illegal and corrupt commands.
Okay, I agree. But, how can you achieve this without speaking with, or how Max likes to put it, liaise with the police? Now, TPR has built an extremely strong and respectful relationship with the Queensland Police that is mutually beneficial. So what do I mean by mutually beneficial? Well, as an example, let's take the Melbourne movement. They are in a constant state of high tension with the Victorian Police. There's constant violence and fighting, and they're not able to achieve what they could be achieving had they built a stronger and respectful relationship with the Victorian Police. Now, I'm not saying that is the same situation that we're having in Queensland, but I'm alluding to the fact that what we have built up here is beneficial to both TPR and to both the Queensland Police. Now, that's because due to this relationship that we've built, it allows us to hit the streets in the way that we want to hit the streets. It allows us to spread the message in a way that we want to spread the message, and the Queensland Police leave us alone to do that peacefully. In return, TPR treats the Queensland Police with respect. We don't provoke them. We don't show them we don't go towards them with any sort of violence. That's what I mean by mutually beneficial, and that is the way to do things going forward, guys. And that's extremely important that we keep that mutually beneficial relationship going forward. And what we also have to realise here, guys, is that they are there to do a job, and so are we. Fighting with the police doesn't achieve anything, and as Max says, we want them on our side, and I totally agree with this. Let's keep moving on with that video.
30,000 people dispersed through the actions of the organiser of the event. Deliberately, folks.
No, Max. Why would TPR and the TPR volunteers and myself bust our asses, print flyers, spend so much time and so much resources on these rallies only to disperse them on purpose? It makes zero sense. And if any volunteer actually thought that the crowd was being dispersed on purpose, they would voice their concerns and that would be made public. So, the fact is that the vast number of people actually come for the march. It is the main attraction of the day. In fact, without having a march, the crowd would be half the size from the beginning. Why? Because, like I said, the majority of the people come for the march. So, guys, we're going to continue to march. We're going to continue to rally because it builds the numbers, it raises the morale, and it creates momentum. And in any war, whether it's a conventional war, or a psychological war, or a spiritual war like we are in now, those three things, morale, momentum, and numbers, you cannot win without. And the rallies do it better than any other form that we have right now, guys. So keep coming. Let's still stick together, keep going forwards. Now, guys, in reality, there was still a massive crowd there after the march, and in fact, even after Max spoke. Let's take a look at this footage.
Why was there nothing in this lady's notes about being double vaccinated? And you know what they said to her? They said, don't ask questions. And so the young nurse then went to one of the doctors and asked him, why is there nothing written in this lady's notes about double vaccination? And he said, don't ask questions. An hour later, that nurse was pulled off the wards and sent somewhere else. I'm going to hand you over to a good colleague of mine.
Right, guys, so that's over an acre. That's 4,800 square metres packed. There's a lot of people still there.
So yeah, I mean, I stopped speaking and believing in anybody in Australia at that point.
Now, it's really disappointing to hear Max speak like this. It was within a few weeks of this rally, Max has put himself into a position of influence, has made the choice to turn his back on the Australian people and flee the country. The end of 2021 was such a crucial stage, where the people had to stand together, show strength, show solidarity. We have so-called influencers bound to the pressure and running away. Many people have spoken to me since this event, and many people have lost faith in Max. Now, guys, the last thing I want to bring your attention to is the fact that Max made his first video from Mexico, from a gentleman mentioned. His name is Jeff Berwick, and in this video, Max goes into detail of why he decided to flee the country, and that's basically because the cops have spotted him at the rally, at the TPR rally. The cops wanted to talk to him, and that they are trying to shut his bank accounts. That's an interesting point, interesting statement, trying to shut the bank accounts. Now, in the future, that may or may not have happened, but we don't know because Max legged it.
But yes, you are correct. I have left Australia. And here I am in Acapulco, Mexico. You can check out the bay. It's quite a nice view from up here. And the reason I've done that is because I had a few shots fired across the bow. I had a couple of friendly emails from the local police asking me to come in and have a chat with them. They're aware that I've been at a couple of rallies. They know I'm not the organiser of the rally, but they think I should come in and have a chat with them anyway. Of course, they're just fishing for my name and a few things like this because they need names for warrants and what they want to do. They also tried to mess with my bank accounts in Australia and shut down my bank accounts and shut down my access to finances.
So let's look at what has actually occurred since 2020. Now, TPR has had theirs, and I've had my personal account shut down 3 times. And I've got proof full of this for the people that say it didn't happen. It's just, what a ridiculous allegation you're going to make. Sit there and say that it didn't happen. Well, I'm going to produce 3 documents from the banks that prove that this did happen. And all of a sudden, those comments turn into defamation. People need to start being a bit more careful with the crap they're trying to throw out there. Now, I was actually charged twice at the rallies in Brisbane, both in 2020. I got charged for being in a group of more than 10 people. Over the 2 events, there's more than 10,000 people there. So, first of all, I want to know what happened to the other 9 people in my group. They never got charged. And the 9,999 people over the 2 events, there was no other charges, guys. So it was pretty obvious that I was getting targeted. They perceived me as a leader of a group, and they're trying to shut it down. Little did they know, all that did was make my fire burn a bit hotter and put me on the path even more strongly in my conviction. I had my firearms revoked and my firearms license removed. The cops turned up at my house with a sheet of paper, claiming that I was, unfit and proper person, claiming that I purposely enter vehicles, travel interstate to spread COVID. It was like a storybook reading this thing. I successfully defended myself at the tribunal, and I had my firearms and my firearms license returned to me. The next thing that happened was a fabricated charge. The cops came into work. They fabricated a charge of me driving on a suspended license. Again, I successfully defended myself at the magistrate's court and had that charge thrown out. I was charged twice at the truckie blockade on the M1, at the failed truckie blockade on the M1, Now, Max Egan was actually there with me on that day, and we had a conversation after that event, and we both were fuming. Not at each other, we were fuming at the fact that one nation had taken advantage of the situation, turned it into a publicity stunt, and moved the trucks on after 45 minutes. And you know, Max was fuming, I was fuming, and I guess we just need to learn from those types of events and not repeat the same mistake twice. What else? Oh, so yeah, that's right. I was charged twice for marching through Queen Street Mall. That was in March of 2022, so it's actually been in limbo for a year. We're still waiting to see what's going on there. And you know what, guys? After all of that stuff that I've been through, after all the stuff that TPR's been through, we're still here. We're still fighting for the people's rights. We're still achieving things, and as a result, we're coming under attack. We didn't leave the country. We stood strong to the challenges, and we're fighting hard still. So we need your guys' support. We need you guys to back us. We need you guys to support us, and we need you guys to ignore the negative allegations that are being made and continue to support us, continue to go forward, because that's what the movement needs, guys. That's what will achieve success going forward. We need to overcome the disruptions, overcome the distractions, and choose to move forward with intent and positivity. You know, I'm not here to pick at Max or to attack him, but I actually do have a message to go straight to Max now. And mate, I've promoted you. I've spent time at your home. I've welcomed you to TPR events. I've considered you a mate. And I'm shocked to hear that you're making these baseless allegations and making up these lies about TPR and myself. When we need to unite, when we need to come together at such a crucial time, you've chosen to divide us. Now guys, I'm not here to attack Max, like I said, but I'm here to prove to you that some people have now decided to come out and make false allegations against TPR and against myself. Now, if we were sitting at home doing nothing, maybe making a few videos here and there with not much real content, these allegations, these attacks wouldn't be happening. It's anyone, any group that decides to stand up and make a real difference and actually start achieving things, that's when the attacks start coming out. So this should be, you know, a sign that we are doing the right thing, that we are making progress, and it's a compliment in reality. Now, when people start making videos from overseas to cause disruption to the Australian movement, you have to ask yourself, why is this starting to happen, and why are people starting to do this? Now, you know, guys, that's a question I'm not going to answer. You have to come up with the answer for yourself, and I'm not going to make any suggestions there. All I can say right now is everyone has to rise above the disruption, rise above the division. We have to come together with the right people, with the right intention, with positivity, and keep pushing forwards. And that's all I've got to say on this. So guys, remember, stick together. We're going to get through this together. Share this video as much as you can. It's important that people see it and understand that we have to leave the crap alone. And now's the time to start coming together properly, start backing each other, start supporting each other. Let's start pushing forwards, and let's start achieving things together. All right, guys, remember to hit share. We'll see you soon. All right, see ya.